Hey there, it's Logan Crockett with Marketing for Normal People. Apple today is just about to hold a live stream event, which means tons of their products are going to be announced, but that also means a bunch of former products are going to be discontinued, including the AirPods Max. And that means not only is the product being discontinued, but so is the AirPods Max website. At Marketing for Normal People, we teach anyone with passion and skills how to market their work, and there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from Apple's marketing on their websites. Plus, we also recommend a ton of Apple products to marketing students that we teach, so it's interesting to look at. And I build websites for a living, and some of this is fun from that perspective. So before the site is officially taken offline, I wanted to do a last look at the AirPods Max website for the first generation version. What did they do well? What could be improved? What can we learn from it? I'll give you my live commentary and reactions. Let's take a look. So right here is the AirPods Max website. This is their hero section. And so we have this, the image of the product, the headphones, right in front of their main title right here. And a really, really large font. A lot of websites don't use fonts this large, but that looks really, really good just from a graphics perspective. I'll refresh so that way you can see the animation that plays. So initially when you load in the website, there's that animation. So they kind of just sit there. If we scroll down, we see we're getting some transform animations. This is getting smaller. The AirPods Max are getting bigger. We have this little description section right here. And then we go into a video. And this video is, it's quite a bit larger than just 100% of the viewport, 100% of the screen size. Because as we scroll down, not only are we seeing the same video background the entire time, basically in a parallax, but we are also seeing these different description statements. As we scroll down, we're learning about high fidelity audio and active noise cancellation. Now, one thing I think is a bit of a mistake, or just something that they should look at, and I'm using Safari, so this is their native browser, but a lot of these vanish really, I'm barely scrolling and I'm totally missing the active noise cancellation with transparency mode. So I like what the effect that they're doing here, but I think that they could introduce a little bit more delay or something that would just allow that to show more. They could also just kind of make the scroll distance longer, because they can make this section with this fixed background as long as they want. Anyway, so that is the video for the AirPods Max right below the hero section. So yes, you have this nice graphic, and then you get right into this video, some of the main call outs about the product, and then you get into this design subsection. Again, a really, really, really large font here. And then they have this little text section over to the side, but they actually have nothing in this space, which is a little bit unusual, but I think it overall works here, especially because this is left aligned, and then this is also left aligned, it's just moved over, but because of this alignment, it just kind of causes the whole thing to be, to definitely be pushed over to the left side of the screen compared. So it kind of balances, but I would call that untraditional, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that. We get down here, and then, this is one of the great things about Apple sites. You have just these awesome scroll animations. So this whole thing just animates right on scroll. Sometimes you do this with different fixed scroll settings. Sometimes you do this with a sticky background, and so the background is stagnant, but the object is animating on scroll. I have other videos that teach how to do things like that if you would like to check them out on the channel. But anyway, so we scroll down, and then we have we just have some more call outs specifically to the design I'm talking about, and these are all positioned relative to what it's talking about. So so we have the canopy here, we have the telescoping arm here, we have the stainless steel frame. So from a balance perspective, that doesn't look the best, but because they're positioned next to the actual things that it's talking about relative to the design, it works. So anyway, so at this point, it releases me from the scroll animation, and I'm able to continue scrolling down the page. We get this little final mention of the aluminum cups themselves. So this, it's the same format with this bold. And it's interesting, actually, I call this bold, but if you actually look at the font that they're using, it's the exact same, as far as the font goes, it's the exact same thickness of font. I mean, it's really the same size of font. It's just darker. So, you wouldn't necessarily think of this as a light text, but this is a much lighter gray color than this. So it's actually not, to an average person, it would probably just be like, yeah, that's bold, but actually it's not. It's just colored black where this is colored with a lighter gray. So it has a bold effect, but that's a really good way to make this stand out, but make this still very, very readable, because sometimes thinner text isn't quite as readable. So I think that works really, really well. All right, we're going to keep going down. Now we're seeing some other colors. And this has just a very, very subtle scroll animation. So at the top here, it's totally aligned. This top edge is totally aligned with this top edge. But as we get down, you'll see that relative to right here, this is actually creeping up just a little bit. And so there's a little bit of almost like a parallax effect between them, and you can just do that with scroll animations. And again, I teach all kinds of ways to do things like this on this YouTube channel. So, and just relative to the image real quick, they did a really good job. Pink background, pink hair, and pink AirPods Max. So they just from a graphics level made that look really, really good. Anyway, they're still talking largely about the design here with this custom mesh, and the memory foam. That's kind of related to design, not entirely, but with websites, you have to figure out what to group and what order. And so I think overall that works plenty well. Oh, also, in addition to like this moving up and down, actually this image itself has a subtle parallax. So her hand, like right where her thumb is, you can see that I can't see the fingernail for her thumb at all right there. But if I scroll down, now I'm seeing pretty much that full fingernail. So it's very, very subtle, but they're doing a little bit of that animation here just to give it a little bit more pop and pizzazz. We get down here, and there's a couple different ways to do animations like this. This is not interacting with my mouse at all. This is just going constantly. And so oftentimes these are videos. Sometimes there's some other ways to do consistent symmetrical animations like that. But that looks really good. It's not just an image, but you're getting an animation. Again, this is very, very visual. And oftentimes on a sales page like this, you want to have a lot of text and you want to be explaining a lot of different things. However, you also want to make it very, very readable and skimmable. You don't want a whole bunch of text jammed all together. And so Apple's doing a very, very good job of this. Also, you can see right here, they have actually a little pause button. And so that actually will pause this video right here, and I can play it again. One of the reasons for that might be website or computers with lower internet speeds. Sometimes a video can definitely take up more bandwidth, and so someone might want to stop the video to help the site load a little better. There's other reasons to maybe do that, but that's one of the main ones. And similarly right here, we actually have a pause button here too. So pause and unpause that video. That's a terrible frame that's right kind of in the middle of motion, so it looks blurry. But anyway, so okay, let's go back down here. All right, so we're about getting closer to halfway. Now they've introduced kind of your main static color, your white, your silver white. They also have their darker space gray kind of color. And then they introduce a red and a blue. But before, they're talking about the design, but before they really get into anything colors, they're kind of getting you used to the idea that, hey, they're different colors. And then they actually highlight the colors specifically right here. So I think this is a great animation. It auto plays. Something like this, it could be a video, and they're using the same pause and play button here, but oftentimes something like this would be done more so through a JavaScript animation with multiple images, because you can basically just slide through them in this particular kind of context. But they're automatically sliding. I don't have any way to select them, at least right here. Other than I can pause it. And then of course, as this moves, this box is always totally correlated with what this is. And so I think that, having the sliding animation here, stacking two different kinds of animations together, I think works really, really well. So we have the sliding animation here, but then it's a fade, more just a straight up transition over here from color to color. And I think that looks really, really nice. We can, of course, and there's more than likely a lot of JavaScript going on here to make all this interactable, but right now it is it is, just sliding on its own. And like I said, yeah, this probably isn't actually a video, even though again, same pause button, because Apple doesn't want the end user to even think that there's really a difference. But actually, I was saying that there's not a way to like pause it or interact with it. There absolutely is. It's just typically on a lot of websites, you might find that like right below the image or something, like right here. But Apple's actually putting it up here. And one thing about this, I just have this on standard default settings on full screen view on my Mac. And one thing about this is I think it would work a lot better if this was all contained to one screen. In web design, we call that a 100 VH, which just means 100% of the viewport height. The viewport is just the screen size. 100 VH section. That if you contain everything in a 100 VH section, it's all condensed together. And all viewable within that section. But here, I have to scroll to see the whole thing. So that means that this section is beyond 100 VH. And yeah, I feel like putting this all within 100 VH, because to really like see this image in all its glory, you can't even, like right now, like I have this kind of centered on my screen, and I'm not even seeing any of these interactive elements. So I do think that they could rethink that a little bit. Anyway, but if I click here, then on any of these, then now the animation is stopped, and now I'm individually choosing things. And you'll notice that the pause button also automatically paused. So I can play again, and it'll automatically swipe through, I assume. Yep, there it goes. But if I pause, then I can do that. And also if it's playing, and if I select one, then it will pause, and it will scroll back. So yeah, so this is, unless they're doing something really weird here, this is 99% sure this is not a video, and this is more of a JavaScript animation. So some cool stuff there. I like the UI and the interactivity. Again, really, really seamless and simple for the user, but there is a lot of complexity going on there. But yeah, again, just graphically, I think it looks really, really nice. You don't need to do something this fancy on your website, but just thinking about, how can I show something at different views, and maybe showing two angles at once could be a really good idea for some of your products. All right, we get down here, and once again, we have just this little subheading here, and then this main heading, and again, a really, really large font. And also, once again, they are doing the same thing that they did up here, where they have, left aligned, and then they have this little, still left aligned, but on the right side, little descriptive text, and they're doing the exact same thing here. Though they are clearly, they do a good job. One thing to pay attention with websites is you want to think from section to section, how am I making it clear that I'm moving from one section to the next? So we have this white background, then we have a video, then we have another white background. And then it's clear that this is another section just because of how different these images are. And then we have this video background, and then we have below that is just another white background section. Now we get to a black section. So they're dividing their sections very, very well. And anyway, again, a little weird with like how, because things are so big, I think that they could rearrange it a little bit so that I can see something visual here as far as an image of the product. Because right here it's just text, and I feel like that's missing out if on just some of the impact of what the user is seeing and understanding if they don't have a visual while they're reading some of this. So again, you just have to scroll down. This I think waits a little bit too long to bring up the text, because again, big stuff. Apple likes really big images and text and things. But yeah, if I scroll down here, we're getting all the way to the bottom before this comes in. I feel like I would make these headphones a little bit smaller, and I would make this text, because like it's a little confusing to the user. It's like, oh, am I like, is there just nothing here? Am I supposed to keep scrolling down? But anyway, but no, in fact, there is indeed text here. And once again, the same kind of bold effect. It's not actually bold, it's just colored in a very particular way. A lot of people would be hesitant to use, a color that's so not white, but you can see here, especially because it's a good size of font, it's very, very, very readable. And this is, very, very clearly what you want to pay attention to if you're just skimming. Okay, so now what's really cool here is, and there's ways with JavaScript and sometimes with CSS to, based on certain kinds of interactivity, you can change the state of an image, or basically swap one image for another. And so that's probably, in most web designs, that's what you'd be doing here. So even though you're only seeing the ear cups change, Actually, you'll notice, if you can see it on your screen, this headband right here. So yeah, just up here where the headband is, it's a little lighter right here, and then it gets darker when we change that. It darkens. The whole thing kind of darkens. And so they're most likely swapping the entire headphone image out based on that scroll trigger point. So yeah, so with each one of these call outs, and these do move a little bit, but you don't see them go from the bottom to the top. You see them move up just a little bit, and then it fades, and then another one comes in, and then yeah, and then the fade, and then that comes in, fade, and comes in. That's not too difficult to do. If you know what you're doing, and we teach using website builders like Divi, that's relatively easy to do in a website builder like Divi, but it's just that subtle use of it. How do you use it strategically and an aesthetically pleasing way? I think that's done very, very well here overall. All right, in this case, once again, left aligned on the left side, but this is not on the left side. This is on the, well, sorry, no, this is on the left side. These, like this right here, is on the right side, left align. But these are both left align, which is just where they're the border of the text is pushed to. And but yeah, they're both on the left side of the screen, so that's a little different. Now, and again, it's aesthetically consistent because they are, and with the pink up here, they're kind of using the same general idea that they did with the pink down here at the green. And also, once again, same kind of parallax. So this is moving up a little bit as I scroll into it. This whole thing's moving up, and her image is moving just a little bit of parallax too, inside of that image container. So yeah, so we have these, again, a little more call outs right there. And then we have our adaptive EQ call out there. And then we're going to get lower, and we have this, this animation that you can see it gets lighter, or it starts lighter, and then it fades a little bit as we get more into view of this person here. And then over top of him, and that means that they need to make sure that this background is dark. That's very important for this to work. But they have this background dark enough so that they can do text here. I think that they could honestly darken it a little. Like, it's not unreadable, but it's not unreadable at all. It's overall pretty good. I think that they could increase the contrast a little bit, just giving this a touch more of a darker gradient to help this text stand out. You could also put a box around it. They're not really using boxes in other place on this particular page, so I understand why they wouldn't want to do that. But yeah, that's one little thought. All right, and then we get down here, the magical experience and how simple they are. Same kind of thing. Left aligned, big header, and then your left aligned right side description. I think this works a little better, this image versus this image up here. Like this, you just can't see the whole thing at all. I feel like this is still a big image, but it lets you see more of the whole headphones all at once. I like the phone next to it, clearly showing how just easy it is, that this is a great illustration for a one-tap setup. That's a lot of the trick with a website and a sales page like this, is like, okay, here's all the things I need to tell people it does, but how to actually demonstrate that. And video and animations are a lot more complex than just images. So, what's an image that can help illustrate this? And overall, I think that's great. So yeah, they're showing just how easy it is to set up. And then they have the automatic switching right here in the dynamic island. And then they're showing the audio sharing feature. So yeah, I think that's great, just having the AirPods right next to the iPhone. So they're showing you, hey, like this is about AirPods features, and they just have that indicated right here because the AirPods are right behind. Yeah, that's great. More magic to play with. This is, I often call this just like a triple card section, or sometimes even triple blurb blocks. But it's just a little three-part section here. Sometimes you would use icons or an image with things like this, but this just has their little subheaders. Again, oftentimes in web design, you would expect this to either truly be bold and this not, or you would expect this to be a slightly larger font size, but these are the exact same font size. It just looks like a bit of a subheader or a header for this specific column, just because of the color. So Apple's really using color here to make sure that to help with the just formatting of how a user will perceive the site relative to descriptions and descriptive text and headers and subheaders. So yeah, really everything, all text that I've seen so far is pretty much the same size as far as like body text, descriptive text. They're not really going much smaller than this. And yeah, everything's that if they're highlighting something, it's about color. It's not about technically making it bold. Also, one little thing to notice is like this little for subscript. These are clickable. Just fun little fact. All right, a case with staying power. So now they're moving into talking about the case. So we have the image. Now this has a little bit of a scaling animation. It starts a little bigger, and then as we scroll into it, it gets a little smaller. So bigger and then smaller. And then a battery that keeps staying alive. That's a pretty solid size of a little header section. It's not as big as this. Actually, no, it is the same. So it's not as big as this. This is their biggest header. Well, not true, because technically this is their biggest. That is bigger. Also notice that's not selectable text. So that is either an image or something else is preventing me from being able to select that. So that's not quite the same as some of their other headers and things. But yeah, they're typically using headers that are this font size. And so this would be maybe more of an H2, something a little bit smaller than the main header that they're using. Anyway, so we're getting down here, huge font for 20. And I also like, it's a long page, but I think that it makes a lot of sense to, you don't want people to miss out on stuff when they're looking at just one part. You want them to understand what they're looking at and not be missing context. But this is kind of what I'm talking about, that 100 VH section. I can see everything that I need to see here. I see this little header. I see the 20 and then I see the description. I see everything and I'm focused on this. A lot of times websites are a little too cluttered and cramming too much stuff into one spot. This is a great example of putting just the right amount in a single spot, but allowing the user to be able to see everything they need to see. And then down here we have the little cards. Oftentimes for cards, I call them cards, just kind of divs that are that have content inside of them. Typically Apple does use border radiuses, so just curved edges on their cards. But in this case, they're not. So that's interesting. And so we just have a few kind of last minute and less important things to just point out, which is, hey, you can check these out in AR. They'll let you do any color. And you can also do engraving, so you can get your AirPods Max engraved. And then you have, this is good. So, Apple Music is a totally separate product. It's a service compared to AirPods Max, but obviously it pairs very well. And so it makes a lot of sense for them to mention it. And I assume this asterisk means that it's only for new customers of Apple Music, but yeah, getting 3 months of music to listen to on your AirPods is definitely good. And of course, I really like this in Apple's case where they have multiple different kinds of AirPods. I think that it's really good for them to show off different ones here. Because, someone might have accidentally come here thinking they were looking for other AirPods and they stumbled on AirPods Max, or now that they've seen all these features, it's like, hey, maybe a different one makes sense for me. I liked these things about it, didn't like these things about it. What about this other one? And so I do like in their case that they just have a quick way to, kind of see the difference. Now, what's interesting, of course, is that the AirPods Pro, as of the time of this recording, the AirPods Pro second generation were updated. The AirPods Max came out first generation, then the AirPods Pro second generation USB-C have been updated since then. So even though these are cheaper, they have a lot of features that this does not. So Apple is expected to be fixing that soon, but that does make it a bit of a challenge from a consumer perspective, because do you want to buy the most expensive thing that is actually lacking features compared to the cheaper thing? And so that's, it gets a little tricky with business when you're dealing with that kind of thing, but there's still enough of a use case for people to buy AirPods Max, because obviously they're a very, very different product. So anyway, and then, we have tech specs up here and compare it. Now, notice, just like a good sales page, they're not into distracting you while you're actually going through the page. And so at the very, very top, you have access to the full menu. But past that, you are only looking at things specific to AirPods Max. So we can look at the tech specs, we can look at compare. But when you're on this overview page and you're scrolled down, all you're seeing is this. You're not seeing anything about Macs or iPhones or anything like that. So you can check out the tech specs. That's, that's where people, and a lot of people make the mistake here. You want to, if you have a bunch of information like tech specs, I love that it's on a separate little page, because you do not need to clutter up your main sales page showing the features and the benefits and making it look really, really cool. This is not the page for looking really, really cool. This is the page for the actual nuts and bolts information. And so I think keeping that separate is really good. And then they have a separate compare little program that'll help you compare different options. And then of course we can buy. And right now Apple's about to have an event, and so we can't actually buy them right now. But we, of course, if we clicked on that buy link in a normal sense, we would be taken to the checkout process for the AirPods Max. I do think it's a little interesting. They have the buy button up here, but they don't have a buy call to action really almost anywhere here. Apple's at a bit of a different place from some other businesses, so they can kind of get away with it. They do have the buy links down here, but I would definitely, for most businesses, I would recommend having buy links spread throughout the site a little bit. You don't need to make them obnoxious or anything like that, but just making sure that they know, hey, okay, like let me actually see what the checkout process is like. Let me look at that. It is always available right here, but it's very small and subtle, and bringing extra attention to it throughout a page is often a good idea for most businesses. When you're Apple is big when you are a brand as big and well known as Apple, and they have retail stores and other things that they're not only doing digital sales. So yeah, they can get away with not having a buy button in multiple places, but for most businesses, I would indeed encourage that. Anyway, so that is a final look at the AirPods Max site. And if you would like to check out another final look at one of Apple's 2024 products, because several are being discontinued right now, click right here. And as always, if you want my free marketing crash course where I cover the new fundamentals of modern marketing that drive awareness, grow an audience, and get people to buy from you, go to marketingfornormalpeople.com or click or scan right here. Okay, catch you later.